Hello, it's me, Pierino, the Pocket Mouse. I'm going to tell you another Welsh fairy tale. Nansi Llwyd and the Dog of Darkness. Nansi Llwyd was walking in the dusk of the evening towards Aberystwyth, and she was in a very bad temper, for she was longing to get married, and according to all the omens, she never would. The previous night being All Hallow Eve, she and Gweno Daffyd and Cyan Probert had been seeking to learn the future. Cyan and Gweno were satisfied with the results of the Rahmanta, or divination, but Nancy was cruelly disappointed. What made it worse was that they had all made a great preparation for the test. Nancy had slept not long before on an oat straw bed. Gweno had spent a night on a mattress made of the leaves of the mountain ash mixed with the seeds of spring fern, and Cyan had a pillow of maiden hair on which she had laid her comely head. Nor had they confined themselves to one test. First of all, they experimented with yarn. Taking a ball of yarn, Nancy and Gweno doubled the threads and tied tiny pieces of wood along them so as to form a little ladder. Then they went upstairs together and, opening the window, threw the ladder to the ground. Nancy began winding the yarn back, saying the while, "I am winding. Who is holding?" This she did 3 times, and no lover made his appearance, so that her chance of marriage for 1 year was lost. When Gweno performed the ceremony, on the other hand, Cadwallader Reese, a most desirable young man, appeared. The water in basin test was still more unsatisfactory. 3 basins were placed on the table, one filled with clear spring water, one with muddy water, and the other empty. The 3 girls were led blindfolded to the table and told to place their hands on the basins. Gweno put her hand on the basin containing clear spring water, which showed that she was to marry a bachelor. Cyan touched the basin with the muddy water, which meant she was to wed a widower. Nancy's hand lighted on the empty basin. This meant that a single life was in store for her. Now, to remain unmarried for 1 year is not very serious, but lifelong maidenhood was a prospect which made Nancy feel first hot and then cold. She consoled herself with the reflection that the water in basin test was not absolutely certain, and she decided to try the pullet's egg test. Oh, goodness. She took the first egg of a pullet, cut it through the middle, filled 1/2 shell with wheaten flour, added salt to the other, and then made a cake out of the egg, the flour, and the salt. 1/2 of this cake she ate. The other half she placed in the foot of her left stocking under her pillow as she went to bed. Then she said her prayers and lay down to sleep. Now she ought to have dreamt of some man coming to her bedside to offer her a drink of water. This man would be her future husband. But troubled as her dreams were, no human being figured in them, and she felt when she got up that all the sunshine had gone out of her life. She became still more sad when she went to examine the movements of the snail she had placed under a basin early the day before. If it had been a right-minded snail, it would have moved about and traced the initials of her future husband's name. But the slimy sluggard had remained motionless, and Nancy hurled it viciously out the window. Oh, my goodness, violence. If it did not sustain serious injuries from the fall, it was not Nancy's fault. All this evidence that she was to be an old maid made Nancy very bad-tempered, and she had not recovered when she took her walk. Suddenly a horse came galloping down the road, and she was all but knocked down by the furious animal. Sounds like me and Herbie on the floor. She recognized the horse as that of Jenkins Powey, whom she had noticed going to market that morning, and she wondered how it had come to pass that the steed was bolting home at such a pace without its rider. As she proceeded on her way, thinking about the horse, she saw two large shining eyes, which drew nearer and nearer. Presently, the body and limbs of a large spotted dog loomed into sight. Nancy had a mastiff with her. She tried to set it on the strange hound. In vain. The mastiff crouched, frightened at her feet, and whined piteously. The great dog with the fiery eyes came right up to her, and Nancy, to protect herself, kicked at it as hard as she could with her right foot. Her foot was paralyzed. Oh, it's not funny. Her foot was paralyzed. And when a circle of fire surrounded the hound she had kicked, and it squatted on its haunches, setting up a loud, horrible, unearthly howl, she fell senseless on the ground. She was discovered, still unconscious, by old Antony, Jenkins Powey's farm bailiff. He, seeing his master's horse standing trembling by the stable door, had set out in search of the farmer. He came across Nancy and brought her to by dashing cold water on her face. Going further along the road, he found Jenkins Powey lying in a dead faint on his back in the mud. Jenkins said when he came to himself that the horse had shied, reared, and tumbled him off. Jenkins was none the worse for his fall, but Nancy's right leg was as black as coal until the day of her death. Had she not been in so bad a temper, she would have realized that it was Gwilgy, or dog of darkness, that had come along the road, and she would no more have touched it than she would have refused an offer of marriage. That's the end. Please tell me what you learned from this story. Because I don't understand it.